All right, hi everyone, it's Mackenzie, the CEO and founder of HashBasis, a crypto-native accounting firm based in San Francisco. And just as a quick recap, in the last episode, we talked about finishing up my accounting degree at the University of Florida and graduating in 2020, so in the midst of COVID, and heading out to the dusty state of Arizona to start my first job working at Honeywell as a revenue accountant. So we're gonna go ahead and pick up back there. And for part 2 of this episode, I'm going to be covering my first and my second job experience in the real world doing accounting. And this time in my life was very formative and challenging, but I think it's just, the challenges of growing up, and I think it's something that all young adults face at some point or another. So again, this was COVID. I went ahead and moved out to Arizona in the summer of 2020. I didn't officially have to move, but Honeywell kept telling me that we were going to go into the office soon, so I figured I might as well move out of my parents' house to get my own place and start this journey of being an adult that I'd been waiting, it felt like so long, to get started on. So I moved to an apartment complex in Scottsdale, Arizona. I moved into Scottsdale because that was like a young and hip and up and coming part of Arizona. And so I found an apartment complex there, moved in, and I quickly learned that everything in Arizona is pretty much 20 minutes away. And by that, I mean you have to drive everywhere. So it was definitely a shock coming from Gainesville in Florida, where everything was super close. I could walk places, and at most it was like a 10-minute drive. So it definitely felt more like a city than I was used to. I was so scared for my first official day at work because I just had no idea what it would actually entail. And I was really apprehensive about the whole concept of becoming an adult and getting a real 9-to-5 job in the first place. It's not something that school really prepares you for, and in fact it's seen as this scary, like, end-all be-all. And I did not feel very prepared for this adult lifestyle, but I was pretty much worrying for nothing. So I remember my first day, my manager, I think he didn't reach out until like noon that day, so I was just kind of panicking in the morning, but then it turned out to be fine. And then after that was pretty much 2 weeks of intensive training with the person whose role that I was taking over. Now, as I mentioned in the last video, I started full-time at Honeywell as part of their Future Finance Leader Program, or FFL program for short. And it's a 4.5-year program, and it consists of 3 different rotations. So you're in one department for 18 months, and then the second and the third departments for 18 months each as well. So my first rotation was within the Center of Technical Accounting, or COTA for short. So I was a revenue accountant, and it was really cool because I was doing revenue accounting for jet engines and other aerospace parts that were getting serviced. And so I just learned a lot about like revenue recognition, 606, percentage of completion, all things like that. So it was actually really interesting and I liked it a lot, but the first 2 to 3 weeks of working a real job in the real world were definitely a complete haze to me. I just remember screen sharing with my coworker for like hours and hours upon end, and I was like, oh my gosh, is this what work is actually like? I was just trying to figure everything out. And it's really funny because one thing that sticks out to me is that I learned how to book a journal entry like in a real live system for the first time. And I knew how to do debits and credits from school, but actually putting it into an ERP was completely different to me, and I wish that I was taught that at school, even though I wasn't. And it gets to a broader theme of like in college, you have to teach me how to use QuickBooks or NetSuite or SAP, like anything that's actually useful and that you will use in your day-to-day job. They don't cover that. It's all very theoretical and debit credit based, but not actually the software, like the IT piece that you inevitably interact with. So definitely I think there needs to be more of that in just like the accounting degree programs overall, because that's what, at least like if you do corporate accounting, like that's what you're going to do a lot of the time. So the silver lining was that everything was very procedural, everything was very well documented. There were SOPs, or standard operating procedure documents for everything. So I was able to catch on a lot more quickly than I expected, but to be honest, a lot of it was memorization. Like click this button, then click this button, instead of actually fully understanding the whole process or the whole map of what I was doing. Now, I was traveling a lot during this time because it was COVID and I was just kind of alone in my apartment. So I was going between Arizona, Florida, where all my family is, San Francisco, where my boyfriend, well, now fiance, is. And so that kind of brings up another theme here, which is remote work. That's only been my only experience of working so far, because we graduated when everyone was remote, and we're still kind of like, we're in like this hybrid world now, starting out 2024. But my only real experience has been working remotely, usually from my bedroom. But honestly, I could not imagine it any other way. I really just love the flexibility and being able to kind of go wherever and do what I need to. But even though that means I kind of work all the time, but it's the fact that I have that flexibility that just makes me really happy, like with the way that I'm working. So just some more details. My team was around 8 to 12 people. There was a manager, some other FFLs, other full-time people. But what stands out to me the most is close week. Again, this is one of those concepts that was not talked about at all in college, but when you do corporate accounting, it is completely all-consuming. And so just as a primer, in case you don't know, close week means closing the books, and typically it's the week after the end of the month, and it's where you make sure all the journal entries for the month are booked, you do all your reconciliations, and basically you're closing everything. But there's things you do on pre-close, maybe 2 to 3 days before the first day of the next month. Then there's day 1 entries, day 2 entries, day 3, 4, 5 entries, and typically I think most corporate closes are between 5 to 7 days. And the accountants will submit their entries, and the managers have to review them, and then the controller reviews them, and it's this whole review process. But yeah, I didn't know what it was. So of course my first close was pretty awful. I just remember there was a lot of crying and a lot of being like, what is going on? But honestly, it was a really humbling experience, and just also like very great experience overall, and really just introducing me to kind of what the real world is like. And I got through, that first close and a couple of closes after, and then I was like, this is not so bad. So it was just, kind of a shock of going from being in college where nothing's really real to, actually having to do something that provides value for people. Looking back, I'm just very grateful for the experience at Honeywell overall. It was the perfect first job out of college. My team was great, my managers were great. Just the whole program was very warm and welcoming. And it just got me used to working a 9 to 5 job. Now, to be honest, after like a couple of months, it didn't really feel like 9 to 5 because, as I said, the job had a lot of, it was very, very procedural. And so by, the 6 months to 8 month mark, I was doing my entire work within like 20 hours a week. And that's kind of where the next section comes in, which is where Mackenzie becomes obsessed with crypto. So let me take you back in time. In October 2021, I went to San Francisco for a few weeks to visit my boyfriend, and that's where my crypto journey really started. So my boyfriend's roommate at the time, his name is Kenton, shout out to Kenton. He was really into crypto, and he was working at MakerDAO, the big DeFi behemoth at the time. And we were kind of brainstorming what else I could do with my career, since I wasn't super jazzed about where I was at, and I just didn't know if I wanted to stay within accounting. But then he started talking about blockchains and how blockchains were just distributed ledgers, and then there was this like internet money, and I was really intrigued. And for me, it was the first time I'd really gotten passionate about another topic that was like kind of related to accounting. I was like, oh, ledgers, like I do that in my day-to-day work. And so there was a connection or a spark that really came up from that moment. So I just started doing a lot of research. In my extra like working hours, basically I was just researching, I was taking courses on Codecademy, watching a ton of YouTube videos. And Kenton also connected me to some of the folks at MakerDAO. And so since they were transitioning fully to a decentralized model, all of their meetings were public at the time. And so I would just kind of like lurk in all their meetings, and I just learned a lot from the whole process. So just wanted to kind of walk you through my crypto journey and how I even started learning about and approaching this space, because I get that question a lot. And there definitely was some like set things that I did that I think set me up for success later. So the first thing is that I read the Ethereum and the Bitcoin white papers, which sounds kind of basic, but especially the Bitcoin white paper, it's amazing. It's not that long, it's only a couple of pages, but it combines economics, technology, philosophy, cryptography, everything. And it actually is a quite digestible read. Now the Ethereum white paper is completely the opposite. I found it was very technical, lots of jargon. I was just Googling every other sentence to look up what it meant, but I took a lot of notes, and it was very helpful just to, kind of learn the basics. I also took a SheFi course, and so SheFi is one of these online groups for women in crypto. It's like it teaches women how to do DeFi. and I thought was really awesome. Met a lot of cool women throughout that program. And I also took this course through Codecademy called Learn the Basics of Blockchain with Python. And as a prerequisite for that course, you had to already know basic Python. So then I started doing basic Python, and then I went down this whole programming route, which was actually very useful for learning about the nuts and bolts of crypto, I think. And I watched Crypto Casey on YouTube. She is phenomenal. A lot of basics, just like basic tutorials, but really great. And then I also started the Phoenix Crypto chapter at Codecademy. So just a brief note about that. Codecademy had just launched their chapters. I remember this was all during COVID, so these were all virtual chapters. So I created one that was supposed to be for people in the Phoenix area, but again, it was all virtual and was all centered around crypto. So there were other chapters around React or Python or JavaScript, but mine was the first one about crypto. And really, that's how I got so deep into my knowledge of crypto, is that I was just teaching it to others. So I did a couple of different workshops and panels, like a deep dive into the merge, how to learn Solidity through crypto zombies, setting up wallets, crypto taxes. I made these presentations for people and I delivered them, and that's like kind of how I learned a lot about crypto. So there's just a lot of cool, fun things that we did. We had a Discord community. There was a little podcast. I had a vice president, which was crazy. I found a random person and she helped me out. We had our own token. We were on Decentraland. We had our own custom wearables. So we just did a lot. That being said, it took a lot of time to maintain it, and I was learning a lot. But fast forward a couple of months, in July, I decided to leave my job at Honeywell, and I just wanted to go full on into crypto. And at this time, I interviewed for 3 different positions within the crypto industry. So first one was protocol researcher at Kraken. The second was a data analyst at MakerDAO. And then the third one was for a financial analyst at Figment. I had no idea what Figment was. I just happened to connect with someone in, I think it was like another Women for Crypto Discord group, and that person happened to work at Figment. And we just got to chatting because I was looking for a job in Web3. I went through the interview process for all 3, but Figment was the first to actually offer me a job. And it just seemed like a really good fit. The other 2 roles weren't really finance or accounting related, but the one at Figment, it was at least related to finance. So I decided to take that offer. Figment was awesome. I feel like I grew a ton. I learned about myself. I learned a lot about finance, accounting, and especially crypto accounting. That's where I really got my very strong foundation in crypto accounting. And just for context, in case you don't know what Figment is, they are a blockchain infrastructure provider. So they run validators on different proof-of-stake networks, ranging from, well, Ethereum came later, but they're doing ETH nodes, big on Solana, Near, Flow, a lot of the Cosmos, the SDK-based chains, so a ton of networks essentially. And I know the infrastructure space isn't that sexy within crypto, but from an account perspective, holy cow, you learn a lot. It's like drinking from the crypto accounting water hose. Now, I had a couple of different roles when I was at Figment. So my first one, I was helping out with rewards reporting. So in the proof-of-stake ecosystem, you have your validators, right, that are validating transactions, adding them to the blockchain, and then getting rewarded for doing so. But then there's also delegators that essentially they stake their tokens, or they vote for validators to do this work of validating the transactions. And so I was doing a lot of reporting for some of our bigger delegators, telling them how much rewards they had earned, what the fee was that they were remitting to Figment, what their total stake was at the end of the month. And that involved a lot of combing through block explorers, and so that's where a lot of my block explorer knowledge came from, because I was just going on like so many explorers every day, copying and pasting different numbers and trying to figure out how all the math worked. But I was really into it because it's just, stuff that you don't know unless you actually do it. Did a lot of FP&A. I worked pretty closely with the CFO. One thing that stands out from that is that I started using Google Sheets a lot, which is crazy because I was using Excel for basically my whole career and also in school before that. But I learned Google Sheets, and now if you need me to make a really great graph in Google Sheets, I can do that. And yeah, it was really cool getting to work so closely with the CFO and kind of think through the problems the way that he was approaching them. Now, after I did some FP&A, I kind of wormed my way onto the accounting team just because I'm an accountant at heart. I love accounting, and I just wanted to be close to the journal entries again. So I started doing a lot of the crypto accounting, and eventually became head of the crypto and revenue accounting departments, which were basically just me at that point. But just learned a lot, especially from the accounting team, the controller, assistant controller. Everyone on the team was super knowledgeable. And I got a lot more into the nuts and bolts of GAAP, like how to analyze and read a revenue recognition memo. I was reading the Coinbase 10Qs and 10Ks and kind of like picking out the parcels of their accounting treatments in there. Embedded derivatives, how to set up a crypto subledger and reconcile it. Just so much that I learned from that process. So honestly, I was obsessed with my job. I was working so many hours, like probably more than I ever should have been working, but I don't know, just I loved it, and just the rate of learning was insane. I would say my breakthrough in crypto accounting came through the first time that I spoke publicly in person about crypto accounting. It was at Bitwave's EDAS conference, or Enterprise Digital Assets Summit, and they let me speak at their conference, their crypto accounting conference, and it was so fun. I spoke about, of course, proof of stake accounting, and it was really the first big public speaking engagement I had done since like high school. I think the session was received pretty well, and I learned that there's a whole crypto accounting community out there, and also that I love public speaking. Overall, I'm really grateful for my experience both at Honeywell and at Figment. One taught me how to be an accountant, and the other one taught me how to be a crypto accountant. So without those two experiences, I wouldn't be where I am today. Now, okay, fast forward a little bit to around spring of 2022. I had always wanted to start my own company. It's kind of ingrained within me. My grandfather started businesses where I'm from in Florida, and so I'd always just kind of grown up around entrepreneurs and just had the idea that one day I would do it. But in spring of 2022, I started going to this meetup group called SF Blockchain Developers. And I was meeting some people there. Whenever I would tell them I was a crypto accountant, their eyes would get really big and they'd be like, oh my gosh, can you help me do my taxes? And people would just come up to me. It was a really weird feeling, but it felt kind of good to have valuable knowledge that I could offer to people. And that's where I got the idea to start a crypto accounting firm, because I was just getting a lot of interest and a lot of questions. And one of my friends at the time, he went on a rant and was like, crypto accounting skills are more rare than a smart contract developer. And at that, my mind was completely blown, and I was like, okay, I gotta do this. Okay, so that's a wrap for part 2 of my accounting journey. Stay tuned for part 3. I'll be getting into Hashbasis and how we started, how the journey is going so far, and what we're looking forward to up ahead. So, all right, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.